Welcome. I'm Doug Morgan, and you're listening to Uncommon Sense, where we hunt for the truth in the topics you're not supposed to talk about, Christianity and politics. And welcome back to the podcast. It is Friday, and of course, that means it's FOMO Friday, where we love to bring you the stories of the week that you may or may not have heard about, bring you a little bit about them so that you know what's going on both here and around the world. And in fact, this very first story we want to bring you this week is from outside of the U.S., from a series of articles from the Daily Wire. Comes this very first one, and it's an opinion piece by Guy Dampier, who is a senior researcher on nationhood. It's at a Prosperity Institute, and it's over in the UK. And I bring it to you because it kind of shows a little bit about what's happening here in the U.S. as well. It's kind of that bird in the mind type thing. We see it happening there. We know it's probably coming here. And here it is. He says, "I can't breathe." Those words were repeated over and over by Henry Norwalk, an 18-year-old student murdered in Southampton last year, in footage recently released by Hampshire. Instead of helping him, as he repeatedly tells the police officers that he has been stabbed, a policeman says, "I don't think you have, mate." They drag him across some gravel, handcuff him, and read him his rights. Shortly afterward, Henry dies. His murder, Vikram Digwa, who was present there on scene, but the police did not handcuff him. He was allowed to go home with the police and pick out some food to eat. He had falsely accused Henry of a racist attack on him, leading to accusations of two-tiered policing, where claims of racism were prioritized over a dying man's cries for help. The events took place last December, but the court case has only just finished. Henry was in his first year at university, the first in his family to attend. He was walking back to his accommodation alone when he met Vikram, who claims Henry barged into him. The judge called that one of the many lies you have told. Whatever did happen, there was an altercation during which Vikram stabbed Henry. The murder weapon has widely been reported to be a kirpan, which is a blade carried by Sikhs as a religious requirement. Many Sikhs meet this requirement by concealing a small knife in their clothing or wearing it around their neck, or by wearing a pin in their turban. Those who do carry a blade are covered by a legal exemption, subject to certain requirements, of course. But Vikram carried one of these as well as a second, much larger kirpan. It's a tradition observed by some Sikhs. And it was this larger blade that he used to stab Henry in the chest, catching a lung and cutting an important vein behind the collarbone. The 8-centimeter deep wound bled profusely, with the pathologist finding over 2 pints of blood in Henry's chest cavity. The attack didn't stop there. Vikram stabbed him twice more in the upper leg, once in the lower abdomen, and slashed Henry's face. Although Vikram can be seen on the body cam video telling the police that he had a small bruise and swelling, the judge said there was no independent evidence that he'd been injured at all. Henry tried to escape. He scaled a fence and fell into a neighbor's property. Despite this, Vikram callously took out his phone and filmed Henry dying. When Vikram's brother arrived, he lied that Henry had used a racial slur and attacked him. His mother and father arrived next. Vikram told his mother that she should take away the knife used in the murder, which she did. And his father alone of the family member there, tried to help Henry as he was dying. And when police arrived, Henry must have hoped that finally help was there. Instead, he had listened to Vikram continued to tell wicked lies about how he'd been the victim of a racist attack and to deny that Henry had been stabbed. The police treated Henry like the criminal, and he died there, drowned in his own blood, without anyone to offer him comfort. In the aftermath, the police found that Vikram had stolen Henry's phone, which contained incriminating evidence. They were able to secretly record a conversation between Vikram and his brother in Punjabi, that's the language, during which Vikram said he would falsely claim he had acted in self-defense, and he was sentenced to a minimum of 21 years before he can apply for parole. In court, Digwa's family reportedly accused the Norwas of racism. Afterward, they put out a statement asking people not to inflame division. Yet it was Digwas who accused Henry of racism, and in doing so, inflamed division themselves. This crime has reignited the debate about two-tiered policing. Like many British police forces, Hampshire has a race action plan, which is focused on racism against ethnic minorities. As a servicing police officer told Daily Telegraph journalist Alison Pearson, this is not just about the atmosphere in which the police operate. There can be there can be different procedures by race, with stop and search of ethnic minorities reviewed within 24 hours, whereas the stop and search of a white person would be reviewed much later. Success in the police often depend on complying with these DEI initiatives, with those seeking senior roles grilled on how they have enacted DEI policies. Failure to comply will mean a curtailed career. All of this goes back to the McPherson report in 1999 into the racist murder of a black teen by white criminals. The police were branded as institutionally racist. Sound familiar? Despite the report only finding incompetence rather than overt racism, that has been held over the police for years. Nigel Farage, leader of the Reform UK, has argued that Norwalk was treated differently because of the color of his skin. He called for pure cold rage in response. Amazingly, the Independent Office for Police Conduct Investigation has so far not found any evidence of police misconduct. That will only increase the demand for wider reforms to deal with the baleful influence of so-called anti-racism in society, which in this case, as in so many others, has ended up meaning discrimination against white people. You see, I have to say, this kind of policing is just simply flat out racist. It's what it is. It's almost the definition. If somebody who's not white says, "Hey, this guy did something to me because I'm not white," then the police treat those two differently, and it needs to end now. If the races were reversed, I mean, everybody would agree this is just simply racism. But one thing I have said for a long time now, if food is natural, it will most likely be good for you. I mean, if God made it, he made it for a reason, right? Well, this hypothesis has been proven again this week. Orange juice used to be a common breakfast staple in American households until it was demonized for its high sugar content. But did the health experts get this one wrong? Like the low fat craze of the 1990s, certain health trends make zero sense. But when it comes to orange juice, the final verdict isn't so cut and dried. Freshly squeezed orange juice is full of antioxidants, and it's perfect for pirates who want to avoid getting scurvy. one 8-ounce glass delivers a full day's worth of vitamin C for an adult with only around 110 calories per serving. And as the Telegraph reported, a recent study published in the journal Advances in Nutrition confirmed that consuming 100% orange juice significantly improves markers of inflammation and oxidative stress in adults. And with 90% water content, it's also hydrating. And as frequent OJ drinkers agree, is quite delicious. I would agree. But orange juice is not it's not a perfect nutritious treat and should be consumed in moderation. All those warnings about high sugar are accurate. Like all fruit juices, OJ is very high in sugar, and for that reason will spike blood sugar, even though it's a natural source of sweet stuff. It's also low in fiber, which is unfortunate because a high fiber count could help those blood sugar spikes and crashes. But freshly squeezed orange juice may seem like the best option, the outlet noted, but the health benefits are negligible compared to more readily available and convenient non from concentrate options found in supermarkets and cold sections. Also, while it would seem that the full pulp version contains more fiber, in truth, the difference is not enough to suffer through the floating chunks if in your juice, if that's not your preference. Now, I do like the pulp, but that's just me. My kids, now that's another story. The bottom line is that orange juice isn't the villain that we've made it out to be, and can be part of a healthy diet when consumed in moderation. And definitely the orange juice, not the orange drink. That's not what we're talking about here. Well, you have heard about Maine's Democratic Senate candidate Graham Plattner, probably, and all the things that show his character, and they just keep coming out. It seems like almost daily. This guy is a piece of work. You know the guy, the one with the Nazi tattoo. He likes to pleasure himself in porta potties. He sexes just many women. Accusations of over 12. Though his and he's married, but his campaigner are like, no, it's not 12, it's like 6. He's only been married like a year and a half. But anyway, you know the guy, right? Well, the Dems have another winner on their hands. A New Jersey Democrat declared that she had to stop going to church because she couldn't stand being around so many people who had voted for President Donald Trump. Yeah. Rebecca Bennett, the Democratic nominee to represent New Jersey's 7th congressional district in the U.S. House, told a supporter about her decision to leave the church at a campaign event in February. Audio of their conversation was obtained and published on Wednesday in the Washington Free Beacon. The audio begins with Bennett thanking her supporters for coming out and offering to take some of their questions. The first question comes from a woman who identifies herself as a former progressive Democrat, but now moderate, who is happy to hear Bennett describe herself as a patriot, but concerned that others might hear that word and think she leans to the right. And this is what the woman asked. She said, "I loved hearing you say that you're a patriot, but what are you going to do about that being a right-coded way of presenting yourself?" And here's what she says. She said, "I will say, I used that word intentionally, and the reason that I do is because I grew up in the Presbyterian church, and after Trump got elected, I stopped going to church for the first time in my life because I was like, I cannot sit in this room with people." This is what Bennett, a former Navy pilot, explained. She said, at the time, I was stationed somewhere that was pretty conservative. I was still in the military at the time. I was like, I cannot sit in this church full of people who voted for Trump. And then, ultimately, I decided They do not get to decide what Christianity looks like. And to me, it's the same thing about how they do not get to decide what patriotism is. She adds, you do not get to wrap yourself in the flag while you are literally murdering Americans in broad daylight. Yeah, that's what MAGA people are doing, right? So yeah, we've got another winner. The Dems really know how to pick them, and we'll see how she does, even in New Jersey, and we'll see how she does. Well, we brought to you here a few weeks back an episode on the Southern Poverty Law Center and how they are just getting exposed for being racist while saying they're fighting racism. Well, more stuff is coming out. So the Justice Department claimed Tuesday that the Southern Poverty Law Center paid Ku Klux Klan members to remain active in the Klan and reimburse expenses relating to cross burnings, Klan robes, and recruitment. Yeah, the allegations came in a superseding indictment filed in federal court in Alabama that expands on an April case accusing the SPLC of wire fraud, bank fraud, and a conspiracy to commit money laundering. According to the prosecutors, the SPLC paid more than $4.1 million to confidential informants embedded within white nationalist and extremist organizations between 2010 and 2023, while concealing the payments from the donors through a network of shell entities and fraudulent bank accounts. 2 Ku Klux Klan members approached the SPLC in 2010 seeking to leave the organization because they feared for their safety. The indictment said that rather than helping them exit, prosecutors say the SPLC paid the pair $1,200 per month, plus expenses, to remain active in the Klan and provide information. According to the indictment, the men used donor-funded reimbursements for activities that included recruiting new Klan members, producing white robes and hoods, publishing extremist literature, establishing new chapters, and organizing rallies. The indictment further alleges the SPLC reimbursed expenses incurred for cross-burning events to include the wood and the fuel used. Federal prosecutors say the payments were routed through a shell company called Rare Books Warehouse and other fictitious entities designed to conceal the true source of the money. The expanded indictment claims the SPLC maintained a covert network of paid sources inside the extremist organizations dating back decades. Those sources allegedly included a Ku Klux Klan imperial wizard, a leader connected to the 2017 Unite the Right rally in Charlottesville, and members of other white nationalist groups. And according to prosecutors, one source linked the Unite the Right received approximately $270,000 from the SPLC between 2015 and 2023. Prosecutors allege another source received roughly $1.2 million, including payments connected to the theft of documents from the Neo-Nazi National Alliance that were later used in the SPLC reporting. The Justice Department argues that the case is not about the practice of using informants itself, but rather the alleged deception involved in obtaining donor money and concealing how those funds were distributed. Acting Attorney General Todd Blanche previously accused the organization of funding the very extremism it claims to combat. To that end, they were doing the exact opposite of what they told their donors they were doing. Not dismantling extremism, but funding it. Yeah, I just had to bring you that story and this update, obviously, because I just think that this is such a highlight, because the SPLC has been used by so many organizations, including journalistic organizations, government organizations, as this top tier organization fighting racism, when in effect it's funding it. Also, they can get more money and then fund some more. Anyway, yeah, that's the update there. Well, I once had a conversation with a dean of students of a university, and she was trying to convince me that going away from SAT and ACT scores, for admission was a great thing because the tests were racist. Yeah, that's what she said. She's being completely honest with me when she said that that include the SAT and the ACT tests include questions about let's say a backyard, she would say, and that would benefit whites more because many blacks were too poor to have backyards. So that's why she was doing away with those those scores, those tests being a prerequisite for admissions. Well, at the height of the coronavirus pandemic, universities embarked on that experiment, eliminating standardized tests from college admissions. And that experiment has predictably not worked. And elite universities are retreating. Yes. Just last week, Yale announced that it would once again require applicants to submit SAT and ACT scores, ending a 6-year test flexible policy. The announcement coincidentally came the same week that a group of University of California professors released an open letter, now signed by more than 1,300 people, by the way, urging the university to reinstate standardized tests requirements for STEM applicants because of severe math deficiencies among current students. Yale's decision means Columbia is the only Ivy League school that still has test optional policy. Furthermore, 80% of schools ranked in the top 10 of the 2026 U.S. News rankings have now reinstated the SAT and ACT, up from just 10% in 2023, when MIT stood alone in leading that reversal. The pandemic served as a convenient opportunity for universities looking to make their applicant pools more racially and ethnically diverse. But several factors were causing the pendulum to swing back. Elite schools are discovering that they cannot maintain high standards while admitting students who are not prepared to meet them. UC Berkeley professors reported difficulty teaching well-prepared and under-prepared students at the same time, making it increasingly difficult for faculty to teach at the level required for advanced STEM work. At UC San Diego, more than 25% of students who had earned 4.0 GPAs, okay, this is a quarter of all the students that had earned 4.0 GPAs in high school, and in high school math, were placed into a course designed to fill the gaps in elementary and middle school math, suggesting that high school GPAs are becoming less reliable filters for academic achievement. Well, yeah, duh. Professors, especially at selective universities, expect to teach college-level material rather than reteach content that should have been mastered years earlier. It is also becoming increasingly difficult for universities to justify test optional policies when research continues to show the value of standardized tests. Students with higher test scores are more likely to earn higher college GPAs than those with lower scores, regardless of the socioeconomic status. Dartmouth found admission officers were forced to rely more heavily on subjective factors like recommendation letters and extracurricular activities than when students didn't submit test scores, which favor wealthier students. Standardized tests can also serve as a useful check on economic preparedness at the time of when K-12 grade inflation has reduced the reliability of high school GPAs. Universities are also trying to regain the trust they lost over the past decade. In a rather frank April 2026 report, Yale acknowledged that when selective admissions seem so inexplicable, it should come as no surprise that many Americans do not trust the process. This is what the report said, and it urged the university to build trust by embracing a standard of candor, making clear that academic achievement is the top priority, and even suggesting that Yale publish a minimum SAT threshold. Universities are now relearning facts that they never should have ignored. Let's hope that these lessons don't go in vain. Yeah, let's hope, right? We'll see what happens. We live and learn, hopefully. Well, in celebrity news, somebody got fired this week. CBS News fired 60 Minutes correspondent Scott Pelley. And they did that on Tuesday, just one day after he accused editor-in-chief Barry Weiss of attempting to murder the long-running show. Yeah, Nick Bilton, a tech journalist and filmmaker recently named the new boss of 60 Minutes, told Pelley that he was being fired after he aggressively hijacked a staff meeting it was their first staff meeting together. And he came in fact, he said yesterday's performance display of hostility enacted in front of the staff, he's talking about Pelley here, instead of in a civil private conversation, demonstrated that you have no interest in contributing to the future success of the show or approaching my new tenure with a mind open to collaboration and progress. This is what Bilton wrote to Pelley himself. He says, I am here to deliver first in-class news programming, not to make headlines about newsroom drama. Bilton said that Pelley hijacked his first meeting with the staff to disparage him and responded to the efforts to reach out with remarkable incivility and contempt. Quote, I welcome a diversity of viewpoints and respectful debate among the team, but this was nothing was nothing of that sort. So yeah, it was because of Pelley's outburst and what he said during the meeting. I guess he just went off saying she doesn't love this place. She was brought in to kill it, and she's been doing exactly that, is what Pelley was saying of Weiss. She has no qualifications for her job. You have slender qualifications for this job. The changes that she made at the evening news have been catastrophic. So why should we expect that any of this is going to be any better? Yeah. You don't do that on the first meeting of your new boss. Well, Bilton said, despite yesterday's misconduct, I had hoped that in sitting down with you today, we could find a path forward together. But Bilton said that you made clear that you are not interested in such a path, and your pathology to the future of the show has come through loud and clear. And I have heard you. I, therefore, write on behalf of CBS News, Inc. to inform you that your employment with CBS is terminated for cause effective immediately. So, yeah, that's what happens when you behave poorly in front of your bosses. Well, let's end on kind of a neat, a little bit lighter note, can we? We covered things that people leave in Uber cars last year, and I thought it'd be interesting to take a look at what was left in this year's vehicles. Ben Hooper of UPI said that ride-sharing service Uber released its 10th annual Lost and Found Index. Yeah, it's an accounting of the most common and mostly unusual items left behind by passengers. The top 10 most unique items in the 10th Uber Lost and Found Index includes dentures with only 2 teeth, breast milk, human hair, a Donny Osmond group picture, an ankle monitor, 420 donuts, George Washington hospital discharge papers, that'd be interesting, a sack of marbles, an oxygen tank, and gold mouth grills. Other bizarre items making the list include a brand new mini fridge, a single red bottom Lubonti heel. Yeah, not sure. An electrical harness, a live fish, believe it or not, a mannequin, 2 trees, a cape with the Statue of Liberty on it, grass. They just brought grass. A textured photo with the rhinestone picture of Jesus. Interesting. A portable thermal printer, a welding helmet, a toboggan, a police radio, pelvis implants, a package of live butterflies, a double-door oven, a child's prosthetic eye, a sleep apnea machine, and a kitchen faucet. Wow, some interesting things there. This year's index also looked back at the 10 most unique items left behind during the past decade, including a lost lobster in 2017, a tie between, there was 2 things, my brother, they left his brother? I don't know, and divorce papers in 2018. A salmon head in 2019, a lanyard that reads Virginity Rocks in 2020, a large painting of Kate Middleton in 2021, 500 grams of caviar in 2022, a live toy poodle in 2023, a fake butt in 2024. Maybe it was on and it fell off. I don't know. And a taxidermied rabbit in 2025. That was last year's. And of course, a 75-gallon tank in 2026. That's the big one this year. So anyway, kind of some interesting stuff. If you're missing any of that, you kind of know who to get a hold of now. I would love to hear what you think on it. Of course, you can always do that at uncommonsensepodcast.com. Thank you very much for listening.
This podcast is a production of Morganite Communications.